I have a few announcements for the congregation. Good news about Reverend Jimmy. He's recovering at home from heart bypass surgery. His address is posted on the bulletin board beside the kitchen door for those of you who may wish to send him a card. A reminder for those of you who attend the Science and Society programs on Sunday afternoons that we are currently on hiatus until at least through the end of the year. More information will be shared as it becomes available. Please remember to bring your gifts of gloves, mittens, socks, or caps and place them on the mitten tree. It's already starting to fill up. It's looks festive out there. The Social Justice Committee will distribute these items at Christmas. If you have any questions, see Steve Kripe. On Saturday, December 9th at 5 p.m., our Cups group celebrates Yule around the time of the winter solstice. This is a time of new beginnings, rebirth, transformation, getting rid of old unwanted habits. We all have some of those, I'm sure, and creativity. Please plan to bring a side dish or a sweet treat to share for the potluck feast after the rite. That's again on December 9th at 5 p.m. here. Our schedule for Sunday, December 24th, Christmas Eve, is different this year. We will not have a Sunday morning service. We're going to have an evening service instead, featuring music and other entertainment. As you go to potluck today, please be sure to notice the display in the gallery hallway of artwork from Phyllis and Gordon Hostetler, and thank the members of the art committee, Caroline Anderson, Phyllis Hostetler, and Emily Morrison, who made a hallway. Well, but you helped, right? Yeah, Caroline wanted to make sure and acknowledge everybody who helped, so there you go. President-elect Laura Snow reminds us that there will be a committee of the whole meeting, otherwise known as COW, today after potluck service at around noon. All committee chairs are encouraged to attend.
The COW's meeting original is the 23rd.
Oh, the 23rd. Okay. So it's December 23rd. It was in the bulletin as the 9th because I copied and pasted this.
I have no idea why.
Okay, well that clarifies that. Is that what your hand was up for too? Any? Right. So the 23rd is the actual Yule celebration.
Yes.
And Euchre is the 9th, that's good, at 4 o'clock. So it doesn't conflict. That's great. What a thrill. Okay, now we'll have Joan and Xander Reed please come forward and do the chalice lighting.
We ring the gong 3 times. Once for those who came before us and made a place for us. Once for those of us who are here now. And once for those who will come after us and build on the dream. Our chalice lighting today is by Maureen Killeran.
Tea starts out with turkey and with tofu and with together.
H reminds us of happiness. May it grow beyond all measure.
A means all who are returning a reunion in the fall.
N is for newcomers to our fellowship and a hearty welcome to all.
K for kind friends with whom we will share dinner.
S means surely you'll have fun, but you won't get thinner.
G is for generosity to share what we've been given.
I for integrity. May we bring it to our living.
V is very special because of each one here.
I, we give thanks for individuals, for each one is so dear. G reminds, together. G reminds us of our blessings and calls us all to give thanks. Thank you, Xander.
Okay. Would you join me in reciting our unison covenant, which is printed on the order of service? Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. This is our covenant. So I'm up here on behalf of the RE Committee, Religious Education, to just say we've got a program going and it's going really well, but we need more adults to get involved because we like to have 2 people each Sunday to be, and you don't have to be the leader. You could just be the helper. And then all you're kind of doing is like herding the kittens and not really responsible for content. So at this time, I will take the Wigglers with me to the children's house.
In our hymnal, I've counted, I think we have 2 Thanksgiving hymns, and we're going to sing them both today, and Steve is going to lead us.
Stand if you're willing and able, and let's sing 68. Come, ye thankful people. Help me with the high notes. Come, ye thankful people, come, raise a song of harvest home. Fruit and crops are gathered in, safe before the storms begin. God, our Maker, will provide for our needs to be supplied. Come into God's own temple, come, raise a song of harvest home. All the world is but a field, given for a fruitful yield. Wheat and tares together sown, here for joy the sorrow grown. First the blade and then the ear, then the full corn shall appear. With harvest grant that we wholesome, great, and pure may be.
And now is the time in our service when we collect our offering. Today's cash donations will be shared with the Boys and Girls Club of Goshen. May we generously give as we gratefully receive.
Now is the time in the service when we share with each other what is on our hearts and minds, joys and sorrows, celebrations and challenges. The sharing that we do will not be recorded, so please feel free to share whatever you wish. Come to the mic and speak your name so that we may know you better. Tell us what you would like to say, and drop a stone or a shell in the water. I light this first candle, and I don't remember why I light it. I know why I light the second one, so we'll get there. Oh, wait, thank you. I light this first candle to brighten our joys, like Joan knowing what to say, and to limit the shadows of our sorrows. And I have a lot today, so
Well, if you're willing and able, stand and we'll sing our second Thanksgiving hymn, number 69, Give Thanks.
I try to make a habit of introducing chalice lightings with the following statement, and I forgot it this morning. So before I introduce our speaker, I'm going to say that here in Elkhart County in Indiana, we reside on the original indigenous land of the Potawatomi and the Miami. And now we are happy to have Andrea Baker Dean with us again this morning. She last spoke to us on March 23rd of this year. Andrea graduated from the Anabaptist Mennonite Seminary. She's a member of the Prairie Street Mennonite Church, and she serves on their leadership team. She's employed at Church World Service as Donor Relations Coordinator. Andrea is not new to Unitarian Universalism. In addition to speaking here, she has also spoken in Florida at the UU Congregation of Miami. We're looking forward to your message this morning, Andrea, about how sometimes a fresh start means renewing something we have already begun.
Thank you, Joan, and it's good to be here with you all today. Try that. There. Can you all hear me all right?
If you're talking to the end of it.
This end? All right. As I was preparing this sermon and just thinking about this sermon coming up over the last several weeks, I was also following the news, as many of you have been, about the situation in Israel and Palestine. And I had this thought, oh no, I can't talk about that. I'm not qualified. I don't have the words. I'm not the person who's doing all the things. So who am I to talk about this? And then I thought, well, they didn't ask me to speak on Palestine and Israel, on violence and war around or other situations around the world. There is much in our lives to continue to talk about. So I still had the sense that it would be important to mention because I know it is pressing on many people's hearts and many people's minds. And there certainly are other situations of violence around the world as well, but this is one that is especially difficult for so many reasons. And we have so many different experiences that we're bringing. Some are feeling great sadness or great anger or great confusion, just uncertainty and lack of clarity. Certainly the US is involved in this situation in a very particular way, and so many of us feel a stronger sense of responsibility or concern. The only thing I really want to say, other than to name that this is, to name this, I just want to name this. And I actually did look at a statement from the UUA president, Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt, and I really appreciated what she had to say. It's a short statement, and I won't read it all, though I have it here if anybody wants to look at it. But she specifically says, "Be gentle with yourselves when you need to be, but do not turn away unless you must." And I thought that was a really thoughtful thing to say, because we can, on the one hand, overwhelm ourselves just with all of the news. It can be so heavy that it can just sort of all run together in our heads. We can be so focused on it that we're checked out of our daily life, or we can simply ignore it completely because it's so difficult. And so this idea that we, on the one hand, need to be gentle with ourselves, And I would say too, we need to keep loving each other and building up our own community, because that's the thing we have the biggest impact on. But we also don't want to turn away. We also want to witness to the suffering that people are experiencing right now. So that's all I have on that issue, but I wanted to say that before I got started. So the main focus of my speaking today is on beginning and beginning again. And I'll start by sharing the story of Maya Husseini, who is a renowned stained glass artist in Lebanon. Over the course of her career, Maya Husseini has designed and created windows for over 30 churches in her home city of Beirut, as well as a museum and a cathedral. She began her career after the Lebanese Civil War ended in 1990, and much of her work was designing windows for churches that had been damaged or destroyed by bombings during the war. Maya became renowned for the beauty of her windows, and she was proud of helping create an artistic legacy for her city. Then, in 2020, an enormous explosion in Beirut Harbor destroyed buildings nearby and damaged buildings throughout the city. The blast was so strong, it felt like an earthquake throughout Lebanon and beyond. Over 200 people died, many more were injured, and even more lost their homes. Shards of window glass were scattered on the streets. Like many others, Maya was in a state of shock, and her first concern was to support family members and friends who had been injured or lost their homes. After about a week, though, she also began to think about her own work, the windows that she had created throughout the city. She finally started listening to her voicemail messages and learned that indeed many of her windows were gone. Maya had just turned 60 the day before and was looking forward to retiring as an artist and turning her attention to teaching young artists in stained glass. But after the explosion, she knew she needed to be part of rebuilding her city once again. So she started visiting each building to see the extent of the damage and looking through her studio to find as many of her original designs as she could. And she hired apprentices, and she began to recreate her work. I wonder what emotions, what Maya went through as she decided to begin again. Did she ever consider just giving up stained glass entirely? Or did she ever consider just following through on her plans to teach? I wonder if pulling out all those old designs, did she feel like she was going backwards? Or was she excited to revisit her earlier work? I wonder if, as they recreated these windows, they made any changes, did anything differently. The story that I heard doesn't say. But however she felt along the way, she did decide to recreate the windows as much as she could, as many of them as she could, to begin the work again, retracing her steps in a sense, although in some ways also differently. For instance, working with apprentices this time. Maya's story is an example for us of the practice of beginning again. I first came across the idea of beginning or beginning again as a specific practice a few years ago, right about this time of year. I was reading about an online Advent retreat organized by Jan Richardson, an artist, author, and minister based in Central Florida. The season of Advent is not only the time that leads up to Christmas, but in the Christian tradition, it is considered the beginning of the church year. As I read about the retreat, the theme that Jan chose for the first Sunday caught my attention, in which we begin again. I had to stop and think about it, reread it, turn it over in my mind. What does it mean to begin again? Is that different from what it means just to begin? Why is it important to make sure we keep beginning? The description went on to say, Advent is the start of the sacred year. This turning invites us to begin again and again, to undertake beginning as a practice and an art with all its messiness and wonder. And so the question that Jan was asking for this first Sunday of Advent is, what threshold waits for us right now, and where do we find the courage to cross it? Why is beginning again messy? And why does it require courage? Why is beginning again an art worth practicing? Well, most beginnings we make actually don't start from scratch, but from the materials of what we've experienced and what we've learned and even what we've lost. Even when we are beginning something new, we are beginning from who we are now. Sometimes, as in Maya Husseini's story, we are called to do the same work again, but in a new way. We can practice beginning again from where we are, not only in major situations like the loss of a life's work, but also in smaller, more common things. One thing that I've experienced, when I was a student, it wasn't uncommon for me to write a draft of a paper, then get dissatisfied with how I'd started and want to toss out my idea completely and start on a different one. Sometimes I started again and again until I ran out of time to complete the paper. And the funny thing is that after time had passed, I might stumble upon a partially finished paper that I had set aside and realize, with the benefit of distance and hindsight, that the first start wasn't so bad after all. While I was writing, my ideas seemed so messy and I didn't know where I was going with them, so I just wanted to give up on them. It has been a challenge to learn, instead of throwing the first idea out, simply to step away for a bit and then come back to it and begin again with what I've already started, instead of looking for a new topic or approach. If you are yourself a perfectionist or know someone who is, this pattern may be familiar to you. But the challenge of beginning from where we are and beginning with what we have is much broader than perfectionism. We experience the desire to scrap the old or the messy in many parts of our lives. We give up on what we've begun or what we have now in favor of some imagined thing we think we could have if we could just start from scratch. Perhaps we have a conversation and we feel so awkward or disappointed by how it went that we wish we could pretend it never happened, and so we avoid any future conversations with that person. Perhaps we feel like we've made a bad decision or failed to start right at a job or in a new home or with a relationship. And so we feel like a new city or a different job or a new relationship will fix our problems. Perhaps sometimes we even want a new self. We just want to wake up and be a new person, starting over. If only I could do things again, knowing what I know now. We find that the importance of beginning again comes up in many religious and cultural traditions. In the Christian tradition, the themes of forgiveness and redemption are very important. In some traditions, we hear the practice of beginning again, specifically associated with growing older. Alan Chinin is a researcher and psychiatrist who has studied folk tales and fairy tales from many cultures that focus on midlife and older characters. And he found that while fairy tales centered around young people, coming-of-age tales often feature the protagonist overcoming or destroying a bad guy, tales of middle age often show people who start out nasty and self-centered receiving and taking the opportunity for growth and change. He recounted an old tale from Persia that demonstrates this pattern. The story begins with a middle-aged couple who are constantly arguing, the wife doing all the work and the husband sitting on his bench, watching the world go by, thinking deep thoughts. "Your thoughts are as deep as a pig's tail is long," she tells him. After a series of humorous mishaps, the wife sets out on a journey and uses her cleverness to recover their household goods from a thief. The husband, meanwhile, not knowing where his wife has gone and fearing she has left for good, learns to take care of things around the house. Rather than a hero vanquishing a bad guy, or even a winner and a loser, in this tale, both the husband and the wife experience growth, and then they begin their household together again. Now, sharing the chores and the care of their household equally. The same people in the same place, but with new perspectives and new practices. Jan Richardson, the creator of the Advent Retreat I mentioned earlier, is no stranger to the practice of beginning. In fact, offering this retreat was a beginning again for her. She had initially begun to offer these retreats with her husband, Gary. Jan is an artist, Gary a musician, and they had put together online Advent and Lent retreats, combining her writing and art with his music and an online forum for people to share their experiences. But then at the beginning of Advent in 2014, Jan lost Gary during what they thought would be a routine heart procedure. After his death, she stopped holding the retreats. But 4 years later, she did decide to offer an Advent retreat again. And that was the one that I started reading the description and was so intrigued by the theme of beginning again. Reflecting on her journey of loss and grief and growth, Jan said, "Closure is not a word that resonates for me." Closure was not what she was seeking after Gary's death. "I am drawn instead," she explained, "to the way that our path emerges from what has gone before." When Jan created a new Advent retreat, it was a beginning, but it was not a completely new thing. It grew out of what came before, out of what she shared with Gary. She was not starting from scratch. And yet it was new. It was different this time than when the two of them were working on it together. Giving herself space and time away was what she needed. And then, when she was ready for it, the practice of beginning again allowed her to work with what had gone before in new ways and to receive new gifts. So how do we practice beginning? And beginning again in big ways or small, with all its messiness and wonder. It helps to stop and take a breath or take some time to acknowledge the imperfection of our efforts, to acknowledge the messiness and confusion, and then move forward anyway, as best we can. It helps to remember, as Jan Richardson states, our path emerges from what has gone before. We may be frustrated or embarrassed by a past mistake, but making and learning from that mistake is what makes us the person we are now. We may miss what we had before, but even in a new place, even in different situations with different people, we carry with us the ways we have been shaped by them. Of course, there are times we do need a completely fresh start, to be free of a habit that's harmful to us and others, or of a relationship that's toxic. Sometimes the damage to a building is too great, and its structure no longer sound, and it needs to be torn down. But many times, we are called to come back to things that we'd rather give up on, to refresh their beauty, to renew our commitment, to begin again. If you were to begin something again, what might need to happen? Is there a need for repair? Is there a need for change? Is there a need for the uncomfortable work of stretching muscles in new ways? Is there a need to accept yourself as you are and take small steps in the direction you want to go? Perhaps you can practice beginning again by going back to a draft you had started, or a piece of music you began to learn. Perhaps by having a hard conversation in a relationship, offering an apology, or explaining what was hurtful to see if the relationship can grow again. Let us take a rest when we need to. But when we are ready, let us begin again, right where we are, with an abundance of patience for ourselves and others, with courage, and with wonder for what we may find. So this morning, I'll leave you with Jan's question. What threshold waits for us right now? And where do we find the courage to cross it? Yes, certainly.
Am I on? Okay. Yeah, we'll ask Andrea if she would listen to our reflections on her wonderful message. Thank you.
Two things that triggered for me. About a month ago, I was going with my daughter to the symphony concert, and we get stopped by a motorcycle group that were going across Beardsley, and a guy came zooming by us on the right, and I let go with an expletive. And my daughter said to me, "Mother, that must be where Melissa learned that." And I thought, I've got something still to work on. And the other thing was this morning, as every morning, I text my daughter to let her know she's not going to find a carcass sleeping in death, and about the beautiful blue sky and the sunshine. And then I reflected how fortunate and grateful I am that we have never experienced the kind of thing that the Israelis and the Palestinians are experiencing now.
Your message makes me think of not that.
That's a relief.
Just as Mary said, we haven't experienced any disaster.
Your message makes me think of any anniversary, any birthday, any coming back together of a group of people to achieve something. Because in every instance, we affirm that we are beginning again to achieve, to renew our interest and our desire to continue what we've already begun. So any birthday, any wedding anniversary, any business partnership, any annual meeting for a congregation, it all sparks that desire to begin again, even though we do it differently every year because we aren't the same people that we used to be. And yet we need to give thanks for the fact that hopefully we aren't the same people in small ways, but that we have the chance to begin again.
That alarm
Thank
was
you.
just a smoke alarm announcing that potluck is almost ready.
Okay, Susie, we will give you the last word.
Well, how about that? An only child having the last say. I work with kids, and every day there's lots of struggles that go with the kids. And in my mind, when I try to remember this when I'm in the thick of things, there's a clock where it says now, 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 all the way around now, right? And for the kids that can hear this, because not everybody can hear when they're in the thick of things, and it's a reminder from myself, is that the minute you're finished in whatever's going on, you can start new, like right there. You can start again. And if in 5 minutes you're angry again, so be it. But you can move through everything, because we are not our emotions, and we're not our thoughts. And the teaching that I received over the years is we are, as you said, a witness. Another way of describing that, we are the blue sky. And the thoughts and emotions are the clouds passing by. And if you can think of nature with the thunderstorms and all, it shows up and then it goes away. So anyways, that's kind of what I really enjoyed your talk today. It was really awesome, because I'm like, I personally, just so you know, this week, and I'm going to cry because it's been such an issue for me, is I'm like, I have to show up differently, because I got trapped in the thick of things. I have to show up differently. Like Tuesday, I went home and changed my clothes, because that's the only thing I could change that day. Right? So anyways, I'm just letting you know, like every moment we can begin anew.
Yes, thank you, Andrea. It was wonderful. And you are taller than I am. Our benediction this morning is from Maureen Killeran, who provided the Thanksgiving chalice lighting. Her benediction words come from a wonderful little UU book titled Lifting Our Voices, Readings in the Living Tradition. As we weather winds of change, may we have wisdom to cherish moments of stillness. As we recollect times of challenge and of pain, may we also remember the graceful blessings of our lives. As we look to future unknowns, may we have the boldness to trust that there is unimagined good yet to come. And now, for our postlude, we will be treated to a brand new song written and performed by the Rust Show. I got a text from Carl after we found out the topic that Andrea was going to be sharing with us today, and Carl said he felt moved to write a song. And so let's enjoy our postlude.
At the end is a new beginning, and the beginning begins a new end. Wonder where we're going, wonder where we've been. Still we keep on sailing, sailing to our journey's end. When the train starts moving, when the trip has begun, it's the end of another chapter. poems spoken and song sung. End up at the beginning, beginning at the end. All the love I'm getting, I have to remember to send. All the smiles and heartache, all the gold and tin. Beginning at the ending, beginning and beginning again. Let's take that step together. Let's fly up to the stars. Let's board that final spaceship, bound for Jupiter and Mars. When we face that final sunset, when we let go of all our cares, we will see a new horizon, dazzling freedom we can share. End up at the beginning, beginning at the end. All the love I'm getting, I have to remember to send. All the smiles and heartache, all the gold and tin. Beginning at the ending, beginning and beginning again. End up at the beginning, beginning at the end. All the love I'm getting, I have to remember to send. All the smiles and heartache, all the gold and tin. Beginning at the ending, beginning and beginning again.